Hello and welcome to the next episode of Making Mannequin Heads into Planters. Very exciting. This is one of the episodes in the 70s. We're almost done, not 1970s, in the it's like number 70 something. We're almost done with this series. So the current thing that we're working on is this head. And so she's all foamed using the Caulk Saver foam caulk stuff. And I love how she came out so far. And what I'm doing is I'm now painting. I went and got some new paints today. Very excited. This is the, I have no idea how to spell that or how to pronounce it, Sennelier Abstract. They're little like packets of paint. They have some good metallics. I wanted to pick up some extra metallics because I'm running low on metallic paints, iridescent metallics. And I should probably like switch this up first because it's been sitting on a shelf. Kind of easy to mix it when it's in a little baggie. Excuse me. This is iridescent and it is excellent light fastness. Iridescent bronze. So I have another iridescent bright brass. That's the other one that I have. I don't think I have a bronze right now. Yes, I do. Bronze, but it's a much different color. So this is just bronze. It's very copper colory. If you see that, see how orangey it is. And then this is an actual bronze. So that's why I got these paints. I also got a light gold. Oh yeah, that's a totally different color. Very nice. Light gold, which is excellent, and a different one. It's Amsterdam. I'm not using like really expensive paints on these because it's going outside. So I'm going to put a little bit of that in there. I also got, incredibly enough, iridescent pearl, which to me sounded just like it might be really, really interesting. And put some in there. So left on my little paint holder, which you can't actually see. I don't know why I was going to put that in the trash. Da-da-da-da. What is this? This is from Costco. When you buy a vat of eggs, you buy like 5,000 eggs at a time. Well, this is part of one of those plastic holders for the, I don't even know how many dozen, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It's probably 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 eggs at a time. Your vat o' eggs. So I'm gonna also put back some of this bronze because I used it all up last time. The other bronze, so what looks like a copper to me. It's a much more coppery color than a bronze color. And the darker gold and the silver, I believe, still, no, yep, the silver still has some paint in there. I can always dilute it with a little teeny bit of water, which I have next to me. And then the gold, which I'll just use this brush. It's a little bit darker gold, but it's called brass, I believe, bright brass. So it's a little bit darker color than the one that I just bought, and that works just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over these just to make sure that it's a little bit cleaned up from what I was working on before, and to give it another light coat to really solidify those colors, because this is a very light metallic paint, lightweight, so its coverage is not that great on this foam. So this will just sort of deepen the color and make it stand out more, clean up the edges as I go through. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm loading my brush. Excuse me, still that lingering little bit from COVID. And just applying it liberally, if you will. Putting it nice and heavy on my brush so that I just take a swipe or two on it and it's good to go. Remember, this is going outside, but I do want it to actually look good and neat. It doesn't have to be perfect. and it's going to be seen from mostly from a distance. So I want it to look clean, good edges, nice solid colors. And this is what'll do it for this, is to really solidify the colors. I was looking at one of the previous heads, the tall head that has the sort of abstraction, the black one, black hard plastic head that I did, and with these kinds of paints, metallic paints that I used. And I'm going to grab a different brush from my bucket of brushes. There we go. I want something that's going to be able to put it on pretty heavily. So I was looking at that. How's this? Not soft enough. This is why it's great to have a bunch of brushes. I mean, I just love having all these. Here we go. There's a nice soft tip, smaller tip. I want to get an acrylic or there we go. I want the synthetic bristles, because with this paint being so light, if I use natural bristles, it will go on streaky, and I don't want it to go on streaky. I want it to go on smooth. All right, so yeah, so the other one that I was looking at that I did with the black, the paint didn't cover that well. People actually really respond to it well. They're like, oh, that's great. I love how it's sort of marbled. And in my book, when I look at it, I go, I'm not very happy because the paint didn't cover that well. So it is really, you know, it's like personal opinion as to if you find that coverage appealing, or if you wanted it to be more solid. You know, it's sort of, because people are like, oh no, I love the way it is right now. It almost looks like stained glass, because it's not, you know, that solid, completely opaque. It's slightly translucent. Translucent meaning slightly see-through. And I'm like, no, okay, all right, I'll leave it. I hear you. It's different people, different opinions. And it's like, I'm not going to go back. It is, you know, a planter. If it really weathers a lot, like I'd mentioned when I was making it, if it weathers a lot and doesn't hold up, what can I do? I just repaint it. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not like it's a one and done type of thing. I can change my mind on it. I can do anything I want with it because it is mine. And I'm the one who sort of transformed it. And since I'm the one who transformed it, I get to re-transform it if I want. That's the beauty of this, is you're not sort of beholden to, it's done, I can never touch it again. Most art is that way. You do want to walk away at some point, but it doesn't mean that you can't work with what you're working on for a while. So now I'm going to go over the gold as well. This brush is horrible, but it doesn't really matter. It actually will put it on nicely. Excuse me. That little cough continues to annoy me. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Very, very annoying. Tends to creep up while I'm, there we go, the gold is good. Oh, I'd already done the gold, duh. The silver went on very nicely. There we go. I've got a bucket on the floor, just of a bucket half full of water, quarter full of water now. It evaporates. Probably one of the reasons it's humid down here. And the silver went on beautifully, so I'm not going to need to worry about adding any more silver to the ones that I had already painted, because it's silver underneath, right? So, I'm going to do that. All right, so now we're going to talk about, let's go to the back. I'm going to skip around because I want to be inspired as I do this. So the back, what are we going to do with the back? All one color? No, because we really won't see them. I want to alternate colors. Maybe I'll alternate colors the same as in the front. Or maybe I'll bring in new colors. Let's go with a dark bronze and a light gold. I want to see how this iridescent white or ivory does on this. It's okay. I'm not 100% sold on it. It would definitely take, oh, that is actually nice. The more you put it on it, the more opalescent it is. not iridescent, opalescent. Maybe I'll do 3 colors back here. What is it called? It's excuse me, iridescent pearl, not opalescent, iridescent. Opalescent I think has a bunch of colors that it brings in, like an opal. I think opals are minerals, like rocks. I'm pretty sure. And I do know that opals are gorgeous, whatever they are. They've got so many beautiful colors. So this is iridescent because it's shiny, shimmery. There we go, that's a good word for it. I'm going every 3 with this color because I'm going to do 2 other colors on here. And I'm just going to not switch back and forth between colors for each one. I'm going to apply one color, then the next. That may seem obvious, but trust me, I've done the other. Just going one brush to the next brush, and then back to that brush, and then back to this brush, and it's kind of like, all right, just stick with one color. Stop being so scattered. And focus on this one color. Get that on there. I don't need to worry too much about overlapping or getting it on the other ones, because the other ones are going to be painted as well. So I do want to make sure I get good coverage between them to get it right in those nooks and crannies. That way, like I was mentioning in the last video, last episode, I was talking about how when you're painting, if you overlap, 1, 2, tilt it down. I'm going to put their face down. Add a little bit of an angle. There we go. She sits well that way. Is that you can overlap your colors onto one another, and that way your when you do paint the next color, you don't have to be as like 100% precise, because you don't have any bare whatever's underneath, in this case foam, showing through. The ends of these pieces, I am going to make sure I get it nice and heavy on those, just to get it so that the color is solid on them. There you go. It's better. The nice thing with these paints, acrylics dry rather quickly. It's going to be this one, just to make sure I mark it. There we go. Yeah, this is like a totally weird little brush, but it's working just fine for what I need. So that means that since the acrylic dries pretty quickly, I can go back and do a second coat once I've done the other colors, because it will be solid enough. It doesn't fully dry, but it's enough to be able to put on multiple coats pretty quickly. And it is a challenge when you're using acrylics, if you choose to use acrylics on canvas, because you've got to work in an area. If you work wet on the canvas like I do with mixing color, that's just the way I've always liked doing it. Instead of mixing on your palette and then just bringing those colors in, I like mixing it on the canvas itself. The issue with that is if you are working in one section, you cannot go back to it 10 minutes later and try to continue working on a wet edge, wet on wet, because it will not be wet. It will be dry enough that instead of you being able to work with it, it'll just start pulling off the canvas. Not the canvas itself, the color will come off of the canvas onto your brush. You'll be literally scraping it off at that point, which is not something you want, unless it's part of the effect. Now, if you do that and you're doing that intentionally, then huzzah, that's a great effect to have. But you got to get used to knowing how to use the actual paint that you're using. So now I'm going to go with this new bronze, the really dark bronze, which is really pretty. Started on the bottom one. Now, am I planning out which one I'm using when? Nah. I am just going with the flow, baby. I am going to make sure that the order of these are the same, because this is kind of mechanical, almost robot-y looking, which was my hope for it, and I've succeeded in it with using the tubing. God, why am I so hoarse? Got like a bubble in my throat, a little gravelly. Since I am trying to go for this kind of robot-y look, 1, 2, 3, 1. Make sure I do these in the correct order. I want the sort of repeating patterns to happen intentionally. If I wanted it to be more organic, as we've talked about in the past, what is organic? It's not a repeating pattern necessarily to repeat exactly the same each time. I would make them more randomized because things don't repeat. Some things do repeat, like, you know, you're talking about some really interesting phenomenon in the natural world that do actually repeat, exactly like physical phenomenon. But it is not common, or at least for our eyes, it's not common. We've gotten more used to that repetition because of our use of artificial stuff over, you know, the decades. And so we're used to this symmetry, but we associate it with, and this is not all just coming out of my head. This is actually shit I've read over the years about art and about how to make things look natural, like if you're painting landscapes and stuff like that, which I've done a few of them, well, a number of them. I did a bunch of studies of landscapes and they were terrible in my eye. Other people liked them, but I was like, ugh, not my medium or not my subject matter. Because I do them and I do really funky coloring on them. I mean, like funky coloring. So it's weird, and I thought it was fun, but it was not like really stuff that I would like ever consider, like, you know, making for public consumption, other than except for that people actually liked them. But I'm just like, meh, no, not a happy place for me, and not something I could ever reproduce. But what I was playing with was making it very not intentionally balanced. You can still compose a piece with standardized like 3 section by 3 sections. So I do a grid of 9, and that will bring your eye in a certain direction and structure you, or, you know, having the God, having a point, and then, you know, all your lines go to that point. So you've got a focal point, and working with perspective and things like that. So that's fun to play with, but I've not been in a very comfortable area with that in the past. Now my big paintings are completely organic, because all they do is draw your eye around in different directions because they are fully abstract. They're more about feeling and emotion than they are about anything else. And it's the moment of emotion and feeling and inspiration by music, because I actually listen to music when I do them. I don't listen to music very much. When I'm doing any kind of work, I can't listen to music. I sit and analyze it or criticize it or whatever in my head. But when I'm doing fun stuff, I listen to music and I get inspired by that music. It sort of drives my emotional state, which for me, art is an expression of that emotional state. And so they work hand in hand very well together. I also love listening to music when I'm gardening, because I can sort of get in my own zone of there, that's kind of cool. I like that. I'll do another coat of this paint, this color, on these little guys after I do the next color. Yeah, so I'm going to do bright gold, which is the light gold, which is the Amsterdam. And I don't have a brush for the light gold. Got that dark bronze. I've got the darker gold, which I'm going to rinse that one out because I like this brush. And then I've got the grassy color. I'm going to use the light gold for this, dry that brush off. But yeah, so, you know, each to their own. This is a heavier medium, heavier body paint. It goes on a little bit thicker, is what that means. Coverage is a little bit different from the others that are out of the tube. Those are very, very light body paints. Those are the craft paints. These are just a lower grade medium body, called medium body paints, that the new ones that I got. They're two different brands, about the same price point. They're about $6.50 at Jerry's Artorama. I will do 2 coats of this because it's not getting full coverage on it. And I do want it to be more mechanical looking than hand painted looking, as if it's like tubes or whatever's pieces of metal that all put it together. So one thing I could do is I could do these all the same color and then do like a black patina wash in the crevices. And what that would do is it would bring out the shape, because it would be all one color. You wouldn't necessarily see the lumpy lumps, right? But what I would do is I would take a black paint and or a dark like this dark bronze, and I would bronze, right? Yeah, bronze, iridescent bronze, and I would water it down after these dried. So I'd let it dry, paint them, let them dry, all one color, and then I would come back with a larger brush and water down, totally thin, the iridescent bronze. What effect would that have? It would make it so that the crevices would hold more of the color, and it would give it sort of a weathered look, so that it looked, you know, and then I would wipe it very, very lightly, wipe it down. So in between each one would hold a lot more of the black, and then it would sort of fade out. I can use it either very wet, or I could use it very dry as well. If I wanted to have the color then really pop even more, I would take a 3rd coat, or in that case fourth coat, depending on how many coats of the solid color I put under, and then I would dry brush over it. Once the black has then dried, I would dry brush the brighter color on there, and that would bring out the highs. Bless you, Larry. Good Lord, something's blowing up a schnoz back there. Yeah, so it would be a process. So the process that I'm talking about, maybe we'll do that on another section. I can show you how to do that so you can make it look like aged metal or aged wood or whatever you want to do. But it's an antiquing old method of doing it. But it's also great for if you're working on any sets. It's how it's done. Dry brushing, wet brush, and then dry brush. You can just do a dry brush effect. So you paint the undercolor very dark, and then you then you dry brush the lighter color over it, and it gives it these beautiful highlights. Larry's blowing his schnoz in the background. All right, so the first color that I went with was the dark color, right? Is that right? Whatever the bottom one is. I started there. Yep, it's the darker one. So now I'm gonna go back over that because everything is dried enough. Or did I use the white first? I don't remember. Anyway, but it feels like that this is dry enough. I don't have to go over the ends because I put that nice and heavy. And like I said, this is going to just give another coat of the color, clean up the edges, and solidify that color along it very much. So yeah, so let's, in a future episode, I only have a few left, so one of the things I will do is I will show you how to do sort of a weathered metal look, and we'll play with that, which will be fun. It's a fun, easy thing to do, and you can use it, like I said, you can weather wood, a wood look, it's faux painting really. It's used a lot on sets. If you get a chance to do any set work on shows, community theaters are always looking for people to work on tech, which means anybody who has even the most base knowledge of like building or painting can be super fun to volunteer to work to build things. But if you don't know how to build things, they'll show you normally. But if you don't have any interest in building, then you can paint sets, which they always need painters. And if you have a little skill set for antiquing and doing things like that, it's super satisfying to see your work, your contribution up on stage, if you're not a performer, or even if you are a performer. So I always was one of those guys who, as a performer, I'm happy to do the lead in the show, but I'm also happy to work on the sets. If it's like a community theater or whatever, that sounded weird. I'm happy to do the lead. But if I'm doing the lead, it doesn't mean I'm not going to work on sets. I guess that's what I really meant. Because I enjoy that the full creative experience in theater. That is theater, to create this, otherworldly experience. So let me tell you one thing about my approach to music and singing. It's always sort of not freaks people out, but they go, holy crap, that's intense. So I've always had this very clear vision of what my responsibility is as a singer. I don't know how I developed it, but I developed it a very long time ago. And I mean like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I'm 52 now. So many years ago. I always had a clear vision of what my responsibility is. And I don't have the biggest voice. I have a beautiful voice and I sing beautifully. And that's why I got a lot of the jobs, most of the jobs I got. And I articulate extremely well. So you can understand every single word out of my mouth, which means that, which can be a little disconcerting when you forget the frickin' words and everybody can understand every word you say. So you learn how to go, oh shit, I've forgotten my words, and how do I fake it till you make it? Been there a few times that are just like, oh my God, what is wrong with my brain? And I will tell you that the less you use your memorization skills, the worse they get. You definitely do lose acuity when you don't use them. You have to exercise them. But anyway, so where was I going with that? So I love working on sets, but so what I've always told my students that I really, really, really strongly believe in is my theory, or not my theory, my approach to singing, my responsibility while singing is that my goal, I guess, for singing is that it's my job for you who are in the audience, anyone listening to me at any time, in any size audience too. It can be an opera stage, it can be a small theater, it can be a salon. I have the same responsibility. When I'm singing, my responsibility to you is to basically help you access your emotional side. I'm actually rather good at it. But that's because I'm very clear about what my job is. So when you know what your job is, you can get awfully good at it, right? Because you understand why you're doing what you're doing. I don't do it to show off. I really don't. People may think I do because of the way I sing, because I sing very passionately and sing very like full committed like singing, right? I don't half-ass it. But that's because what I'm doing is I am working to help you feel the emotions that we don't allow ourselves to feel on an everyday or infrequent even basis. The imagery that I've always had is that my job is to take you, reach into your chest, take out, this is the imagery I have. Take out your beating heart, your beautiful beating heart. Show you that you are alive, you're a feeling person, and the heart being, representative of sort of your life, your emotional center. And to basically open your chest cavity, reach in, show it to you, ba-bump, 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 right? You're alive. And then my responsibility doesn't end there, however. I know a lot of singers who sort of just leave it there and it's all about their ego. And they're like, you're alive, damn it. And I'm going to crush you and crush your heart. No. What I do, I think that's different than a lot of people, or at least I have a consciousness about it and an awareness of it, is that I consciously then have the responsibility, and I think all musicians do, that when they're playing beautifully, they're interpreting something and they're helping people access their emotions, which is my job. My responsibility is then to put the heart back in your chest and close you up and say, and you're healed. Or at least I'm going to try to help you heal that. You've experienced this raw emotion, right? And then bring it around to a safe place. So that, I know it's a really wacky imagery, but that has always been my imagery when singing. And I'm told that it comes across because I don't hold back in showing you or helping you get there, get to that emotional center, that emotional place where we don't ever allow, not ever, but we don't often allow ourselves to live and to thrive. But it's extremely important for us to access and go there and be there in a safe place, safe environment. Like when you're sitting in a theater and, it's like a whole bunch of people are seeing the same thing around you, but you're bawling your eyes out. And it'll happen when I'm singing a Russian aria that you don't understand a word I'm saying. I've had so many people come up to me. I sing the Lenski aria in Eugene Onegin. And I've had so many people come up to me after I've sung that aria. They have no idea what any of the words meant, right? I do. I know what I'm singing about, and I know how I'm singing it, and I understand the language of the composer when it was written and the intent behind it. Oh my God, sorry about all the clearing of the throat. And as a result, when I present it, I allow the people to access that emotional center that is coming from, or the emotional Ursprung, so the well, the origin, there you go, and the depth of that emotion. And they'll be crying their faces off and not be understanding why, because it's just pure raw emotion. So anyway, so with art of all types, I think getting that, or trying to elicit a response, an emotional reaction, emotional interaction, emotional and thought process. People approach it differently. They want to, inspire thought. It's others' emotion. For me, it's an emotional thing. It's emotional connection, or at least and it could be happy. It could be inquisitive. It could be holy shit. What the hell is that? Scary. Creepy dolls. That's my whole thing with creepy dolls. It makes me feel like it's like a train wreck. I can't look away. I'm fascinated by them because of that. And so anyway, so this is the end of today. We got the spine done. We got the second coat done on the front, 2 coats on the back. It's a little gloopy gloppy, but it'll all come together. And that's what happens when you're working with metallic paint. As it dries, it will calm down and be less gloopy looking because as the moisture comes out of it, it will settle down and flatten down. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoy yourself and enjoy the day and give yourself lots of space to make mistakes and learn from them. Let other people make mistakes and just hope that they're learning from their mistakes. And if they're not, then you can learn from their mistakes as well. And take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out. I don't know if that's word. Those words don't make any sense. Just let that deep breath out. Everything looks better now. All right, put a lot of love out in the world. There's not enough love out there. You got a lot inside. Let it out and have a great day. Bye.